Yo, what is up? Welcome to Ninja Geek Games. Most of the Marvel games I've played are generally cooperative, but Marvel Dice Throne is a competitive game for up to Thor players. Thor players. Done it again, son of an Odin. As you've probably guessed, this Marvel game is dice-based, but sadly has no thrones. It promises to be a fast-paced game with card play and push-your-luck elements, where you take on the role of either Scarlet Witch, Spider-Man, Loki, or Thor in an attempt to defeat your opponent by activating combat abilities using dice, playing cards to boost your powers or upgrade your player board, and ultimately be the last Marvel standing. Let's take a look at the components, but before we do that, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It's only fitting we look at the components of Thor, considering they're my favourite Marvel character. Each character has a cool looking player board split into various sections filled with a load of information that can look a little daunting. The 8 areas either side of the character artwork are the abilities that can be carried out during your turn. Each shows the number and value of dice needed to activate the ability, as well as what damage is dealt and a vast array of effects that can benefit you or hinder the opponent. This centre area here shows your super ultimate ability that is an exceptionally powerful attack if you are able to activate it. There is a double-sided hero leaflet that shows which game tokens you start with and how they are used during play on one side, and some rule clarifications on the other specific to that hero. You get to take control of 5 dice unique to your Marvel hero, and the values of each dice are shown on your hero leaflet. Your deck of cards consists of upgrades that overlay sections of your player board, as well as actions that can be played at certain times during the round. There are 2 dials, one records how many combat points you have available that are used to buy and activate cards from your hand, and the other a health tracker. Lastly, each hero character comes with their own tokens to mark when someone's been targeted by an effect. Now, to some extent, it appears that each player will start the game with very similar components. That's somewhat true, but each hero's player board has different actions that can be activated with varying effects and powers, and the hero leaflet has a load of abilities associated with the different tokens that they control. For the hero cards, some are generic and found in all player decks. However, most are specific to that character and generally quite thematic. The aim of the game is to activate abilities and play cards in order to reduce your opponent's health to 0. Ultimately, you want to attack causing damage of different strength values, but you'll need to ensure your tokens and effects are put to good use, as these allow you to play cards for free to upgrade your board, block other player actions, or, as in the case of Loki, play some really wicked spells. Each round has multiple phases where you gain combat points that can be spent to play cards in hand, an offensive role where the push your luck element comes in, and a defensive phase where the opponent can attempt to block any attacks made against them. I really like the push your luck element here, where you can roll any number of your dice up to 3 times in an attempt to activate combat abilities on your player board. When doing this, you have the option to either match dice symbols to the action requirement, or get a straight run of consecutive numbers, normally 3 to 5 dice, as each side of a die shows both a symbol and a number. So here, if I want to activate this ability, I'd need to ensure my dice have these matching symbols. If I don't manage this on my first attempt, I can re-roll any dice I choose another 2 times. Now, you don't have to nominate an action before rolling, you can simply choose any ability dependent on what your dice show at any time within the 3 rolls. Instead of symbols, some abilities require a run of consecutive numbers shown by this image. So here, these 3 dice would activate this ability, but for this ability I'd need a run of 4 consecutive numbers. Some combat actions provide a simple effect, like getting the opponent to take damage. Others require you to follow a set of additional steps whereby damage can be dealt, followed by rolling more dice to modify the damage in some way, or increasing your combat point dial and gaining tokens that you can then make use of. Some actions also give additional effect if the opponent has previously been targeted with one or more of your tokens, so you need to take this into consideration when deciding which combat ability to activate. The combat abilities of all heroes are different, making each Marvel character unique to play. For instance, some of Thor's attacks allow him to throw his mighty hammer, and Loki can gain cards to hand. As mentioned, you don't pick a combat action and hope to roll the activation requirements. Instead, you roll dice and decide which to keep and which to re-roll, making your decisions on which action to take based on what the dice results are. At first, this can take some time because all combat actions require different combinations of dice values, and then some of these actions require more dice rolls where certain effects take place based on these extra rolls, and some even give you a number of options to choose from. Each hero also has an ultimate ability that deals a large amount of damage as well as provide you with tokens but require you to roll a particular symbol on all 5 dice. When you take damage from an opponent's attack, you may be able to counter or negate some of the damage with a defensive combat roll. Each hero will have 1 or 2 sections on their player board designated as a defensive ability represented by the shield icon. The defensive ability indicates the number of dice allowed and you only get 1 roll. So in the case of Thor, depending on what symbols are rolled, I can make use of his hammer, deflect some damage and gain tokens. It's important to note that not all damage can be defended against. For instance, the ultimate power action and some other effects deal unblockable damage, so opponents take the full brunt of the attack. The tokens that you're granted are awesome and also very thematic to the character that you're playing with. Your tokens are either placed on your player board or can be inflicted onto an opponent. Spider-Man's tokens allow them to attack twice or prevent an opponent from making defense rolls, whereas Scarlet Witch forces an opponent to use one of her own dice during an attack, reducing the opponent's availability or copying opponent's status effect on their board. As you can see, attacking provides many options with regards to which combat abilities to use with the various effects and tokens that can be applied, and we've not even discussed the decks of cards available to each hero. During the game, some actions allow you to gain combat points that are recorded using one of the dials, and during play you can pay for cards from your hand by spending these combat points. There are 2 types of hero cards available: upgrade cards that overlay sections of your player board, making them more powerful, and action cards that can be played at different times during the game. Upgrade cards will have the same name as the section of the board that they cover and will show new abilities and effects available for that action. Some areas may even be upgraded multiple times, as the combat ability will show cards with different levels, and defensive abilities can also be upgraded. The action cards can be reactive, allowing you to change the facing of a die, re-roll or gain combat points and tokens. Some require you to roll a dice to determine the effect, and you need to play the right card at the right time for maximum effect. The game therefore incorporates a detailed combination of dice manipulation and tactical card play in a very thematic encounter. The base game rules are primarily for 2 players, but you can also enjoy this in a 3-player free-for-all or a 4-player team battle. The heroes are vastly different, so there is really good replay value, and it's very rewarding experience to create a powerful combination of attack with modifiers and status effect tokens, going back and forth with the opponents for defensive rolls and playing action cards to gain the advantage. There are also standalone expansions available, each with 2 heroes, one with Doctor Strange and Black Widow and the other with Black Panther and Captain Marvel, that can both be combined seamlessly with the base game. These are really solid games with a reasonable price value that I've enjoyed playing at all player counts. Although fairly light games that require a bit of luck, they do offer strategic play in a highly thematic game that I think is a must-have for all Marvel fans. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. This is Ninja Geek Games. Cheers.